The Candy Castle and the Great Sugar Storm. Chapter 1. A Sweet Surprise. Lily was no ordinary girl. She had the biggest sweet tooth in the whole town. She loved chocolates, lollipops, jelly beans, and marshmallows more than anything else in the world. Her parents always warned her, "Too much candy isn't good for you, Lily," but she just giggled and took another bite of her favorite caramel fudge. One afternoon, while playing in the park, Lily noticed something strange. A trail of candy sprinkles led into the woods. She followed it, her eyes sparkling with excitement. With every step, the trees around her became more colorful. Branches were made of licorice, leaves were gummy bears, and the ground was soft like cotton candy. At the end of the trail, she gasped. Right in front of her stood a castle made entirely of candy. The walls were built from chocolate bricks, the windows were sugar glass, and the roof was covered in swirly peppermint tiles. A moat of blue raspberry syrup surrounded the castle, with floating marshmallow stepping stones leading to the grand entrance. Lily couldn't believe her luck. "This is a dream come true," she whispered, stepping onto the marshmallow path. Chapter 2. Meeting the Candy King. As soon as Lily reached the giant caramel doors, they swung open on their own. Inside, the castle was even more magical. Chandeliers made of rock candy, fountains that poured strawberry milkshake, and golden goblets filled with fizzy soda bubbles. Suddenly, a tiny man dressed in a jelly bean robe and wearing a lollipop crown appeared. He had a mustache made of licorice and a smile sweeter than honey. "Welcome, young traveler," he said in a booming voice. "I am King Coco III, ruler of the Candy Castle. And you, my dear, have been chosen to be our special guest." Lily's heart jumped with joy. "Does that mean I can eat anything I want?" she asked, her mouth already watering. The king chuckled. "Of course, you are free to taste and enjoy as much candy as you wish." Without another word, Lily ran through the halls of the castle, munching on gummy chandeliers, scooping up chocolate mousse, and slurping from the milkshake fountains. But the more she ate, the heavier the air became. Strange dark clouds started forming over the castle, and the candy walls began to shake. Chapter 3. The Great Sugar Storm. King Coco suddenly looked worried. "Oh dear, I was afraid this might happen." Lily stopped mid-bite. "What's happening?" "The Candy Castle is magical, but it stays balanced only when people enjoy it in moderation," he explained. "If someone eats too much, the castle becomes unstable and a sugar storm begins." Right at that moment, the sky rumbled. A massive storm cloud of powdered sugar formed above them, and suddenly, boom, it started snowing sugar. But this wasn't normal snow. It was thick, sticky, and never-ending. "Quick, we need to stop the storm before it buries the entire Candy Kingdom in sugar," the king shouted. Chapter 4. The Quest to Restore Balance. Lily felt guilty. She had been so excited about eating candy that she didn't think about the consequences. "How do we stop the storm?" she asked. "We need to restore balance by creating something that isn't sweet," King Coco said. "The castle needs a mix of flavors to survive." Lily thought hard. What was the opposite of sweet? Sour? Salty? Bitter? "Do you have anything salty?" she asked. The king's eyes lit up. "Yes, the pretzel mountains. Their salty magic can stop the storm." With no time to waste, Lily and the king hopped onto a giant jelly bean carriage pulled by marshmallow unicorns. They galloped through the Candy Kingdom, dodging syrup lightning bolts and escaping from tornadoes made of cotton candy. When they reached the pretzel mountains, Lily grabbed a handful of the salted pretzel dust and threw it into the storm. Whoosh! The moment the salt mixed with the sugar, the storm started to clear. Chapter 5. A Lesson Learned. The sky turned back to bright blue, the candy building stopped shaking, and everything in the kingdom was restored. King Coco sighed in relief. "You saved the Candy Castle, Lily." Lily smiled but felt a little embarrassed. "I'm sorry for eating too much and causing all this trouble. I didn't realize that even candy needs balance." The king patted her shoulder. It's okay, young one. You learned an important lesson today. Too much of anything, even something wonderful, can cause problems. Lily nodded. From now on, I'll enjoy my sweets in moderation. With a final hug, King Coco waved his candy cane scepter, and Lily found herself back in the park, standing at the beginning of the candy trail. The castle was gone, but she knew it was still out there, waiting for the next visitor. As she walked home, she took a single chocolate piece from her pocket and smiled. One piece at a time, she whispered to herself. The end. The Great Race, the Rabbit and the Tortoise. Once upon a time, in a vast and beautiful forest, there lived a proud and speedy rabbit named Riley and a wise and patient tortoise named Toby. Riley was known throughout the land for his incredible speed, while Toby was admired for his persistence and calm demeanor. One day, as the animals of the forest gathered near the riverbank, Riley boasted about his speed, claiming, "No one in this entire forest can outrun me. I am the fastest creature here, and no one even comes close." Toby, who had been quietly listening, smiled and said, "Speed isn't everything, my friend. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race." Riley burst into laughter. "Win a race? You? That's impossible, Toby. You're the slowest animal in the forest." The other animals started murmuring, intrigued by the idea of a race between Riley and Toby. "Why don't you prove it?" a mischievous fox suggested. "Let's have a race between you two." Riley grinned confidently. "Fine, I accept the challenge. Let's race tomorrow morning." Toby nodded. "I accept too. Let's have an honest and fair race." The next morning, the entire forest gathered to watch the much-anticipated event. The race would begin at the big oak tree and end at the crystal-clear lake at the other end of the forest. The animals cheered as the fox, acting as the referee, raised his paw. "On your marks, get set, go," he shouted, and Riley bolted forward like a flash, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Toby, as always, took his time, starting at a slow but steady pace. As Riley sped through the lush greenery, he chuckled to himself. "This race is too easy. Toby is miles behind. I have plenty of time to rest." Seeing a shady tree nearby, Riley decided to take a nap. "I'll just rest for a few minutes," he thought, curling up comfortably. Soon he was snoring, completely unaware of the time passing. Meanwhile, Toby continued walking, never stopping, never rushing. He enjoyed the journey, greeting other animals along the way and soaking in the beauty of the forest. The birds chirped, the butterflies fluttered, and the wind whispered through the trees. Hours passed, and Toby finally reached the place where Riley had been sleeping. Seeing the rabbit curled up under the tree, he smiled but didn't stop. He simply continued on his way, step by step, toward the finish line. As the sun started setting, Riley suddenly woke up. Stretching lazily, he looked around and realized, "Oh no, I must have slept for too long, but surely Toby is still far behind. I can still win." He dashed off at lightning speed, racing through the trees and leaping over rocks. As he approached the final stretch, he could see the finish line in the distance, and to his absolute horror, Toby was just a few steps away from crossing it. "No, this can't be happening," Riley gasped, pushing himself to run even faster. The animals cheered loudly, watching the dramatic moment. The finish line, Toby took his final step and crossed it first. The forest erupted in cheers as Toby smiled warmly. "Slow and steady wins the race," he said humbly. Riley panted heavily, realizing that his overconfidence had cost him the victory. "I can't believe it," Riley admitted, hanging his head. "I was so sure I would win, but I underestimated you, Toby." Toby chuckled. "Winning isn't just about speed, it's about determination, patience, and never giving up." Riley nodded, learning an important lesson that day. From then on, he became humbler and more respectful toward others. And though he remained the fastest animal in the forest, he never again underestimated the value of persistence and dedication. The animals of the forest never forgot the great race, and Toby's victory became a legendary tale passed down for generations, a story of wisdom, patience, and the triumph of the steady heart. And so, the great race between the rabbit and the tortoise became a cherished lesson for all. Slow and steady truly wins the race. The Adventures of Zion and the Flying Carpet. Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Al-Zafir, there lived a curious boy named Zion. He wasn't like the other children who spent their days running through the spice markets or playing near the grand fountains. No, Zion had an insatiable thirst for adventure, and his greatest dream was to fly among the stars. One evening, as he helped his grandfather, a humble rug merchant, arrange the carpets in their shop, Zion noticed an old, dusty carpet rolled up in the corner. Unlike the others, it shimmered slightly, as if woven with threads of starlight. "Grandfather, what is this one?" Zion asked, brushing off the dust. His grandfather chuckled. "Ah, that's no ordinary carpet, my boy. It's been here longer than I can remember. They say it has magic in its fibers, but no one has ever seen it fly." Zion's eyes widened. "Magic? Have you ever tried?" His grandfather patted his shoulder. "Some things remain a mystery, Zion." That night, unable to shake off his curiosity, Zion tiptoed into the shop and unrolled the strange carpet. It was beautiful, deep blue with golden swirls that seemed to pulse under the moonlight. He hesitated, then whispered, "Fly." To his astonishment, the carpet trembled beneath him and lifted slightly off the ground. Heart pounding with excitement, Zion climbed onto it. The moment he did, the carpet soared into the sky, out of the shop and over the sleeping city. The cool night air rushed past his face as he clutched the edges. He was flying. Higher and higher they went, over the golden domes of Al-Zafir, past the palm trees that lined the great river. He laughed with delight, but suddenly, the carpet took a sharp turn and sped toward the desert. Zion clung tightly as they soared over endless dunes. Then he saw it, a towering fortress hidden among the sands. The carpet slowed down and hovered near one of the windows. Zion peeked inside. There, in a grand hall, sat an old man with a long silver beard, locked in a golden cage. His eyes met Zion's and he smiled. "At last, the carpet has chosen its rider." "Who are you?" Zion asked in awe. "I am Sage Bahir," the man said. "Long ago, I was trapped here by an evil sorcerer, Zorvan. He stole this carpet from me, but it refused to serve him and fled. It has been waiting for someone pure of heart to help me." Zion felt a thrill of purpose. "I'll help you escape." "Careful, my boy," Bahir warned. "Zorvan is near. He will do anything to keep me imprisoned." Just then, a deep voice echoed through the hall. "You dare trespass in my domain?" A figure emerged from the shadows. Zorvan, draped in dark robes, his eyes burning like embers. He raised his hands, and the ground trembled. "That carpet belongs to me." The carpet darted away just as fire erupted from Zorvan's fingertips. Zion yelped, dodging bolts of magic as he tried to think. Then he saw a golden key hanging from Zorvan's belt, the key to Bahir's cage. Summoning his courage, Zion urged the carpet toward the sorcerer, ducking and weaving through his spells. At the last moment, he reached out and snatched the key. "No!" Zorvan roared. Zion spun the carpet toward the cage and unlocked it. Bahir stepped out, his hands glowing with blue energy. With a wave, he sent a powerful wind that knocked Zorvan back. "Quickly, we must go," Bahir said, climbing onto the carpet. They shot through the air as Zorvan let out a furious howl. As they soared above the desert, Bahir chanted words of magic, and the fortress below began to crumble. Zorvan disappeared in the swirling sands. As dawn broke, they landed safely back in Al-Zafir. Bahir placed a hand on Zion's shoulder. "You have done a great deed today, young one. The carpet has chosen wisely." Zion beamed. "What happens now?" Bahir smiled. "Now you have a choice. Keep the carpet and explore the world, or return to your normal life." Zion grinned, feeling the soft fabric beneath his fingers. He already knew his answer. And so, the adventures of Zion and his flying carpet had only just begun. The day my dog became president. The day started like any other. I, Jake Thompson, a regular 12-year-old kid from Maplewood, woke up to my dog, Max, licking my face. Max was a golden retriever with a goofy smile, a wagging tail that could clear a coffee table, and a habit of getting into trouble. I had no idea that by the end of the day, he'd be running the country. It all started with a joke. My best friend, Lucas, and I were sitting in front of the TV, watching the presidential debate. The two candidates were arguing about taxes, healthcare, and the economy, words that made my brain feel like it was melting. I sighed and tossed a potato chip at Max, who caught it midair with the grace of an Olympic athlete. "I bet Max would do a better job than these guys," I muttered. Lucas laughed. "Yeah, he'd probably just make everyone play fetch and take naps." That's when the idea hit me. What if we actually submitted Max's name as a joke? Lucas's eyes lit up. "Dude, that would be hilarious. Let's do it." I had no idea how elections really worked. But with some quick internet research, we found out that anyone could technically be a write-in candidate. We made a website, uploaded some funny pictures of Max, and created a campaign slogan, "Bark for a Better Tomorrow." For fun, we made posters with Max wearing a tiny suit and tie, and Lucas even edited a video of Max giving a speech using clips of him barking. We posted it on social media with the hashtag #MaxForPrez, and then the internet did its thing. The rise of Max. The next morning, my phone was exploding with notifications. Somehow, Max's campaign had gone viral. Celebrities were tweeting about it. News anchors were laughing about it. People were actually writing his name on ballots. By the time election night rolled around, Lucas and I were glued to the TV. States were turning red and blue, but something crazy was happening. There was a tiny section of the map that was turning golden. Max was winning votes. Not just a few votes. Millions of votes. And then, the impossible happened. "Ladies and gentlemen," the news anchor said, blinking at the screen like he couldn't believe it himself. "Max the dog has officially won the presidency of the United States." Lucas and I stared at each other. Oh my dog. The White House goes to the dogs. The next thing I knew, men in suits showed up at my house. "Congratulations, Mr. Thompson," one of them said. "We need you and President Max to come with us." Before I could process what was happening, Max and I were whisked away in a limo, heading straight for the White House. My mom nearly fainted, and my dad just kept muttering, "This has to be a dream." As we walked into the Oval Office, Max immediately jumped onto the Resolute desk and wagged his tail. The Secret Service guys didn't even flinch. They just stood at attention like this was completely normal. "Mr. President," one of them addressed Max, "your first briefing is ready." I waved my hands. Wait. You guys know he's a dog, right?" The Chief of Staff, a very serious-looking woman named Miss Ramirez, nodded. "Of course, but the people voted, and we respect democracy. Besides, every president has advisors." She turned to me. "That's where you come in. Me, a 12-year-old, advising the President of the United States?" I swallowed hard. Oh boy, Max's first executive orders. The next few weeks were a blur. I had to help Max run the country, which mostly meant translating his barks into policies. His first executive order, mandatory belly rub breaks in all workplaces. His second, free dog treats for every household. The country loved it. "President Max has the highest approval rating in history," one reporter announced. "Americans are happier, productivity is up, and studies show that belly rub breaks are actually lowering stress levels across the nation." Max was crushing it. The international incident pour. But then came the incident. One day we got a message from the president of a country called Zorvakistan. He wasn't happy. "This is an outrage," he bellowed in a video call. "Your president has insulted my people." I blinked. How?" The translator looked nervous. "President Max, peed on the Zorvakistan flag during a meeting." I turned to Max, who wagged his tail innocently. "Oh no," I groaned. "That's just how he marks things he likes." I had to think fast. President Max deeply respects your country. He was giving you the highest honor a dog can give." The Zorvakistan president frowned. "Really?" "Yes," I lied. "In fact, in our country, it's tradition for all new friends of the president to receive this honor." The next thing I knew, Max was on a world tour, honoring different countries. It was weird, but hey, it worked. The end of a wild presidency. After a year, things started getting hectic. Congress tried to pass a law that required all presidents to be human. People protested. Dogs barked. Cats were suspiciously quiet. Then Max made his own decision. One morning, I woke up to find a note next to Max's water bowl. Okay, I wrote it, but still. It said, "I, President Max, hereby resign. I would rather chase squirrels than sign bills. Thank you for the belly rubs. Woof." The next day, the vice president was sworn in, and Max retired to a quiet life of sleeping on my bed. Some people were sad, some were relieved, but one thing was for sure. No one would ever forget the time a dog ran the country. As for me, I went back to being a normal kid. Well, mostly normal. After all, how many kids get to say they were the personal advisor to the President of the United States? And every time Max curls up next to me at night, I scratch his ears and whisper, "Good job, Mr. President." Because let's be honest, he really was the best president we ever had. The Secret Library of Everwood. In a quiet town, where cobblestone streets wound between cozy houses, lived a curious girl named Mia. Mia loved books more than anything in the world. Every evening, she would curl up with a story and imagine herself in magical lands. But one rainy afternoon, something unusual happened. As Mia browsed the old bookshop near her house, she found a dusty, leather-bound book with no title. The moment she touched it, the pages began to glow. "Strange," Mia whispered. She opened the book, and suddenly, whoosh! A whirlwind of golden light pulled her inside. A world of living stories. When Mia opened her eyes, she was standing in a massive library, unlike any she had ever seen. Bookshelves stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with glowing books. Some books floated in the air, others whispered to each other, and a few even scurried around like little animals. "Where am I?" Mia wondered aloud. A tiny owl with spectacles fluttered down from a shelf. "Welcome to the secret library of Everwood," it hooted. "This is where all stories come to life." Mia's eyes widened. "Stories come to life?" "Yes," the owl nodded. "But there's a problem. The Book of Lost Tales has been stolen by the Shadow Thief. If we don't get it back, forgotten stories will disappear forever." Mia felt a thrill of excitement. "I'll help." The owl handed her a golden feather. "This will guide you, but beware, the Shadow Thief is cunning." The journey to the Shadow's lair. Mia followed the feather through the enchanted library. She passed through jungles of fairy tales, oceans of adventure stories, and even a valley of riddles where books only spoke in puzzles. Finally, she reached a dark, misty corner where the shelves were broken and the books were torn. At the center sat a tall, hooded figure, the Shadow Thief, holding the stolen Book of Lost Tales in his hands. "You cannot take this from me," he hissed. "Forgotten stories belong to the shadows." Maya took a deep breath. "But stories are meant to be remembered. Without them, there is no magic, no adventure, no dreams." The Shadow Thief laughed. "Then answer my challenge. If you win, you take the book. If you fail, you'll be trapped here forever." Maya nodded. "Here is your challenge," the Shadow Thief said. "Tell me a story so powerful that even the shadows cannot erase it." Mia thought hard. Then she smiled. She began telling a story about a little girl who loved books, who found a magical library, and who was brave enough to stand up for forgotten tales. As she spoke, the library shimmered with golden light. The Shadow Thief gasped as the darkness around him began to fade. The more Mia told her story, the weaker he became until, poof, he vanished into a wisp of smoke. The return home, the stolen book floated into Mia's hands. The moment she touched it, the entire library cheered. The owl flapped its wings excitedly. "You did it! The stories are safe again!" A golden portal appeared before Mia. "It's time to go home," the owl said gently. Mia stepped through, and in a blink, she was back in the bookshop, the dusty books still in her hands. Was it all a dream? She wasn't sure, but as she walked home, she noticed something new. Her own name had appeared on the book's cover, glowing softly. From that day on, Mia wrote her own stories, making sure no tale was ever forgotten again. The end. Tommy and the Time-Traveling Bicycle. Once upon a time, in the small town of Willow Creek, lived a curious 10-year-old boy named Tommy Sparks. He loved fixing things, old radios, broken clocks, and especially bicycles. One day, while searching through his grandpa's dusty garage, he found a strange-looking bicycle covered in cobwebs. It had glowing blue wheels, a tiny screen on the handlebars, and a big red button in the middle. "Whoa, this isn't an ordinary bike," Tommy whispered, wiping off the dust. As soon as he touched the red button, the bicycle whirred and hummed to life. The tiny screen blinked and displayed, "Destination, choose your time." Tommy's eyes widened. A time-traveling bicycle? No way. Excited, he hopped on and typed in 100 years into the future. Zoom, off to the future. The bike spun in circles, faster and faster, until poof, Tommy found himself in a futuristic city with flying cars, robots, and neon-colored buildings. A friendly robot, Zog9, rolled up to him. "Greetings, human child. Welcome to the year 2125. Zog9 said in a cheerful robotic voice. Tommy's jaw dropped. This is amazing, but where are all the bicycles? Zog9 beeped. Bicycles? Those are ancient. Everyone here moves using jetpacks and hoverboards. Tommy looked around and saw kids zooming past on floating boards. He tried one but fell flat on his face. Maybe the future is cool, but I miss my bike, he chuckled, climbing back onto his time machine. Let's go somewhere else. Blast to the age of dinosaurs. Tommy typed, 65 million years in the past. The bicycle whizzed and zapped, and in a flash, he landed in a jungle filled with giant ferns, tall trees, and roar. A massive Tyrannosaurus Rex was staring at him. Tommy gulped. Uh-oh, I didn't think this through. The T-Rex stomped closer, its huge teeth gleaming. Tommy pedaled as fast as he could. Suddenly, a small, feathery dinosaur, Rory the raptor, jumped in front of him. Quick, follow me, Rory screeched. Tommy zoomed through the jungle, dodging vines and giant dino footprints. Rory led him into a cave just as the T-Rex chomped, but missed. Phew, that was close, Tommy said, catching his breath. You're lucky, Rory laughed. That big guy thinks bicycles are snacks, Tommy smiled. Thanks, Rory, but I better go before I end up as dino dinner. He pressed the button, and whoosh, he was gone. Medieval kingdom adventure. This time, he landed in a medieval kingdom with stone castles, knights in shining armor, and villagers in long robes. A boy in a crown ran up to him. Halt! Who art thou? I'm Tommy, and this is my time-traveling bike, the boy gasped. A magical metal horse? Amazing, I am Prince Edward. Just then, a dragon appeared in the sky, breathing fire. Oh no, the dragon is attacking our kingdom, Edward cried. Tommy had an idea. Leave it to me. He pedaled super fast, circling the dragon. The glowing blue wheels distracted the beast, making it dizzy. Then the dragon hiccuped, burped a tiny puff of smoke, and fell asleep. The villagers cheered. Hooray for Tommy the Dragon Tamer! Prince Edward clapped. Thou art a true hero, Sir Tommy. Tommy laughed. Thanks, but I should get back home before my mom wonders where I am. He pressed the button once more. Home sweet home. With a final zap, Tommy landed right back in his grandpa's garage. The bicycle's lights dimmed, and the screen displayed, mission complete. Tommy grinned. Wow, what a ride! He ran inside, already planning his next adventure. Maybe next time, he'd visit ancient Egypt or a pirate ship. For now, though, he had a secret, a time-traveling bicycle, and a lifetime of adventures ahead. The end.